There is one man that owns the state of New York last week, and his name is Matthew Coronado, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, everybody?
What an intro. What an intro today.
I was trying to think of did I have any spicy like New York type lyrics that I could
Yeah.
throw into here, but that's pretty
Nope.
much all I had. Yeah, we're gonna time travel a little bit back today. We're
A
back.
bit.
It's a beautiful Monday, last week of March.
It's
I'm really excited.
It's downpouring in New Jersey, so
Absolutely downpouring. I'm so excited. I know this isn't hockey related, but next Saturday. So basically for Christmas, my mom and dad were like, whatever, like they have a budget with me and my sister, and they're like, okay, like what do you want? Right? It's like a
yeah.
$200 budget, right? And I'm like, I just want a gift card from Golf Town, right?
Ooh.
And so I've gathered up birthday money and all that. So I've got about 500, $600 in Golf Town for you have Golf Town down there, right? Like
Probably.
whatever, golf store.
I've never heard of it. I might have gone into one
Might
by
be more
accident.
Canadian, but anyway, it's a golf store, right? And so
Yep.
I am spending probably $100 in grand total on some new irons on Saturday.
Very nice. Very
I'm
nice. Yeah,
excited.
Golf Town is only in Canada.
It's weird though because like I've never done this before, but you go in, right? And you have to book
Mhm.
an appointment to get like fitted like a
That makes
suit.
sense.
You know what I mean? And like whatever
I
you
think
want
that
and
makes no. That
yeah.
makes sense. A lot of
But
golf stores are like that.
but the nerve-wracking part is like you're with this guy who's you have to be like a professional in order to like
Of
do these
course.
appointments, right? And like you have to go in and you have to hit in front of the whatever, like the screen or whatever,
Mhm.
like an indoor simulator, and you have to do it in front of him, right? So I'm like, man, I hope I don't fuck up because then I don't want him thinking that I'm shit. I'm not a scratch golfer, but I'm not terrible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't want him to be like, listen, buddy, you don't need these clubs. You need like kindergarten clubs. And I'm like,
Oh,
no, like I want these clubs.
kindergarten gloves. Yeah, all right. That's
um,
awesome.
so yeah, we had a bit of a week last week. It was a bit of a crazy week last week, from
I think a bit is not doing it justice. I think
that's a
it's
bit of an
more of I
exaggeration.
think it's
Yeah.
more of it went exactly I think it was probably best case scenario other than Monday.
It was best case scenario because the way that St. Louis has been playing, if it didn't go that way, be
We
after
it w
Monday's loss, the
Yeah,
season would be over.
we'd write them off for
We'd
sure,
write
yeah.
them off. But the
Yeah.
matter of the fact is they've just won 3 in a row, and for the first time ever, they have swept the state of New York, I
I
think.
don't They might be the only team that did that
Yeah,
this
because
year, I
I
think.
think well, sorry, the New York metropolitan area, because I think they
Yeah.
lost to Buffalo early, but they mean like the New York stretch here,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So let's flash back to Thursday. We don't normally do this, like, go all the way that far back. Let's
Flashback where's that?
flash
We
back.
did like a flashback, like, noise, like
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Flashback to Thursday. We went live on the THPN channel. A lot of fun, by the way. It was
It was a
very good.
blast.
It was a lot
It's
of
so
fun,
much
yeah.
fun. A lot of Flames fans in the chat,
There
which
were a lot, actually,
was
yeah,
actually awesome.
surprisingly. Yeah, and so flashback, and it was 3-1 for New Jersey going into that lovely third period.
Mhm.
And I kind of accepted at that point that it was over. But believe it or not, they ended up rattling off 4 goals in a row, and the Calgary Flames find a way to win 5-3 in New Jersey. Let's start there. Let's start in what happened on Thursday. So, Neil,
Yeah.
do you want to walk through with me kind of what happened from your perspective?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, look, you know, the Devils I thought played pretty solid through 40 minutes. Like
It
I said,
shows in the stats.
yeah, it shows in the stats. They played a really solid game defensively. They peppered Dustin Wolf in a second period. Ended up getting 2 goals. Holla got one. Which, by the way, Eric Holla's goal, kind of a weird one. He took a shot that hit right off I think it was the thigh or like just the leg of Kevin Ball.
Ball, yeah,
Went
went off
in.
a ball, man,
And then,
yeah.
like moments later, right, or not even moments later, like 6 minutes later, right, Flames are on the power play, and Coronado takes a sharp angle shot that hits off of the stick of Dawson Mercer and went in. So both teams at that point, it kind of evened out. Both teams had a weird goal that ended up getting.
Yeah.
But then Paul Cotter gets one literally with just like 26 seconds left. It was a nice move. I can't really fault Wolf that much for that goal. I think it was bad play defensively. Um, but I think it was fair to say that you felt like that was the backbreaker for the Flames. At least you were hopeful that, like, giving up a goal that late, being down by 2 going into third, you felt pretty good. And the Devils, they'd shown, and I had mentioned it numerous times, they'd shown that graphic that said the Devils were 30-0-2 going into this season when leading after 2 periods. And right away, I felt the Flames had one of their best periods of the entire season. They peppered Jacob Markstrom. They just took over that game, and the
Yeah.
Devils just could not get going. They really just struggled. And then, Zari gets one. All right, it's 3-2. The shocking one, without question, was Daniil Miramanov with a shot off the glove side of Markstrom. And Miramanov even said after the game that obviously
100%.
playing alongside Jacob Markstrom, for the past, period of time, he knew where to shoot with that type of opening.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm trying to, if I have my correct, was it 3-2 when that breakaway happened for Dawson Mercer?
It
Was it
was 3-2, yeah, because then you think they broke it open and
for
yeah.
just so the Flames, who had 5 power plays in this game, mind you,
Yeah,
uh,
that's the crazy thing.
fifth and last one, Dawson Mercer, the Devils gets a breakaway, and Dustin Wolf, I think, made 2 saves on that one attempt by Mercer. He took a shot, tried to beat him low glove side, got the stop, and then knocked out the rebound. And then moments later, after the power play expired,
Mm,
that's when Miramanov tied it at 3. And then, while there was still the shock of the fact that it was tied, there was just a bad play in the defensive zone, and the puck came right out in front in the slot where Jonathan Huberdeau went about as top shelf could be, beating Strom. That made it 4-3, and the Devils finally put on, pressure and really tried to tie that game. Ultimately, gave up an empty net goal to Nazem Kadri, and that resulted in a 4 unanswered goal comeback by the Calgary Flames. And you have to give credit where credit is due. If you're, from the Devils' perspective, Calgary just came out like guns blazing, really, and the Devils just did not respond to it at all, just at all. And there was, I think, even Brendan Dillon said after the game, there's nothing to say other than we're shocked.
yeah.
And that was a shocking loss because the Devils had it for 40 minutes. But again, similar to their game against Columbus earlier that week, they had fallen back in the third period and allowed the other team to pepper them with shots. Now, one thing to keep in mind, Jacob Markstrom, that second goal he gave up to Connor Zary, was soft. It trickled past Markstrom and in. Like, it wasn't like Zari totally beat him. But
Mhm.
and Connor Zary, especially since he got back from being suspended, has really taken the game to another level, which shows you the type of impact he has when he's in the lineup. Um, but again, if you're the Flames, you can't help. Just like against the Rangers, you're laughing because you're like, "How did we walk out of here with this win?" Like nothing made sense.
I
Um,
still, but it was funny, like, I still felt like the Devils, like, had it with when they were up 3-2, right? And you mentioned that breakaway. Like, it was still in their hands, right? Like, you give up 1
it
goal, like,
was,
or, like, whatever, 6 minutes into the period, and you're kinda
it
like,
was
"Alright." And in a span of 3 minutes, everything changed,
everything
right?
changed. That double save by Dustin Wolf
Was
ultimately, in my opinion, won them the game.
Of course. Yeah, because then
Yeah.
it just and then all of a sudden, like, whether you wanna believe it or not, like, when you face a former goaltender, you kind of know their ins and outs a little bit, right? They can have
Yep.
good games here and there where they'll stonewall you, but for the majority of the time, going into this game that, okay, we know a good chunk about them to
Yeah.
understand what we need to do, right? And,
Yep.
I thought in the 3rd period, Miromanov put it best. He said, "I kinda just knew where to shoot," because he's been playing with
Exactly.
Mark the last year, right? And
Mhm.
before he got traded or whatever, he played with him for the past year. So it's like he kind of knew what he needed to do, right?
Yep.
Same thing with Huberdeau, right? Even though it was a quick shot and he just went glove side or excuse me, blocker side on him. So
Yeah.
um it was definitely surprising. And it was surprising
Sure.
after the game where you just kind of sit there and go, what the hell happened?
What the
Right?
hell just happened?
So it
Yeah.
was still great though. Like it was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
Just very, very surprising.
Way
Yeah,
more entertaining than the live watch along we did it against for the Rangers game. I'll tell you that.
God, no
Way
kidding.
more entertaining.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
yeah, so I
That was a
mean,
huge. That was probably one of the better wins I feel like the Flames have had this season. Just the fact that they came back and won. Granted, the last one was an empty net goal, but you win by 2 goals after being down 2 goals going into that period.
and it really started to set things into motion because now, like with the amount of games left to play, and I said it on Thursday, I said these 3 games, like in order to stay alive, it felt like they needed to win all 3 coming up, meaning tomorrow night against Seattle, right? And I still mean that. They need to
Yeah,
it's a lot of must wins
100%.
coming up, and they need to win it tomorrow because if you look at the lineup coming up, although it's interesting because I don't know, and maybe this is something we look at it on Thursday, um, closer to the game when they play Edmonton on Saturday,
Mhm.
but McDavid and Draisaitl may not be available.
They are currently, as I think it was Friday,
Yeah, week to week.
Knobloch said that they were out at least a week.
So,
It's
do you
huge.
wanna rush them back on Saturday coming up to the against the Flames when, for all intents and purposes, you've probably got a playoff spot locked down. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter for them where they finish, right? So you
Yeah.
wonder, like, would you really wanna risk them coming back? And I don't know, like,
If
I
you're a Flames
refuse to
fan, you would
believe.
love it if they didn't rush them back,
Well,
you
that's
know?
the thing, right? Like, if they don't come back, you're looking at a completely different Oilers team, right? In
You're
Edmonton.
much more even than like, the 2 biggest difference makers are not in the lineup, so you have a you can't help but feel more
Yeah.
confident that we have a shot to win this game.
I refuse to believe coming up on Saturday that both of them are 100%.
I wouldn't be surprised if one of them came back,
Yeah,
but
it
I
wouldn't
don't know.
listen, it
It's
wouldn't surprise me if both of them came back, to be honest with you,
no,
right? Like, it
no,
wouldn't
you
surprise me.
know, it's gonna be it's and especially now that we're into like essentially the last 2-ish weeks of the season. Well, 3
Yeah,
actually, because we got the 16th. So with teams, we're gonna start seeing more teams obviously clinch a playoff spot. We already have one
one,
or two.
one.
I think it's one. I think Winnipeg can clinch tonight
Yep.
or
It's
whatever the case
clinching
may
season,
be.
boys. It's clinching season.
It is officially clinching season. We'll start to see teams that will rest guys.
Yeah.
You won't see that from the Flames the rest of the year.
No,
You won't see that.
obviously not.
Obviously
Um,
not, which is fine. I prefer not to do that.
I don't either.
But that's me.
But I mentioned it to you before we jumped on, like, the magic number is, well, I don't know if whatever, I thought about this the other day, but the magic number is 2.
Too.
Right? And 2, because what's important is that the Flames, until the end of the season, if you're strictly looking at it between them and St. Louis, right? Whatever. The
Yes.
game that they played against them a couple months ago, whatever. If it comes back to bite them, it comes back to bite them, right? But just looking forward, they will always be, until the end of the season, game 82 said and done, this team will always be at the very least 1, maybe 2 games behind St. Louis, right? Always, right? Which is kind of good, right? The biggest game of the year could very well end up being against the LA Kings at the end of
That
the
one
year.
that got moved to the very end of the
Right.
season
The
because of the fire.
Flames, believe it or not, despite losing both games to St. Louis in February in St. Louis, they still hold the tiebreaker.
They do.
So all they need to do is stay within 2 points down the stretch here. They don't need to leapfrog. They just need to stay within striking distance here because
Mhm.
it might come down to the last 3 games of the year where St. Louis is done and the Flames have 3 games to possibly win 1 or 2 games, and that might just get them in. So, I
Right.
think just, and we'll look at the standings afterwards, but that was just kind of the way I looked at it as a whole. It starts Tuesday night because the Blues
Mhm.
host Montreal, who's clearly in a
Who's
playoff spot.
fighting
That's
as
going to
well,
be
yep.
good. It's going to be another exciting one there. And then we'll talk about obviously Calgary being at home to Seattle in again the biggest game of the year coming
Must
up,
win.
where the tides can turn. Right, if they find a way
Yes.
to, if the Blues lose and the Flames some sort of way find a stupid way to win and pull us back in even further, well, boom, you're 2 points behind them, still 3 games in hand with the Blues having 9 games left to go in the season.
Yep.
Like, that's a really good spot to sit in because then you could look at
Huge.
it and go, man, all they need to do is win 1 in their final 3 games if they're 2 points behind, and they're in.
Yep.
So for St. Louis, like, yes, it's great that they're on this kind of stretch here, being 8-1, and it's obviously the biggest reason why they're in a playoff spot. But you can't falter now,
No.
right?
No.
They're lucky enough to have Nashville again on Thursday. Maybe they're in Nashville, so I don't know. But then they got to go to Colorado on Saturday.
They
You
do.
get the Red Wings. I don't know. Maybe that's a toss up there. The Penguins, not great. You got to play Colorado again. You got to play the Jets in Winnipeg in a game in which that could mean the Jets clinch the 1 seed in the Central. Then you have to go to Edmonton, right? To Seattle. You're not at home to Seattle. I think being in Seattle is a bit different. And
It
then
is
Utah
different.
at the end of the year, which is no gimme. So it's definitely doable. I think the biggest games to look at if you're scoreboard watching here coming up, obviously, I think it's tomorrow night, and obviously it's going to be Thursday against Nashville, and
You're right.
frankly, all the games coming up. But I really look at the Red Wings and Penguins games for them, right? Because if they, for some reason, falter, look at those games they have to go into where they got to face Colorado, they got to face Winnipeg, they got to face Edmonton, boom, 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 right? So,
Mhm.
and that's why it's as important for the Flames here because maybe they're getting Edmonton at a good time here, but they also have a tough stretch here after Seattle Tuesday night.
You're right. Yeah, and then that's the thing. It's the Flames, especially with the way that this last week went for them, they put themselves in such a strong position. I feel like, I
Yeah.
think that's why it's so important if they can win tomorrow at home against Seattle, you're going into that tough stretch that you had mentioned, in the last episode of, who they got to face, feeling fairly confident because at that point they will have won 4 in a row and they're looking at it like, hey, we still have several games in hand. We're good.
Yeah.
If we stay on pace with St. Louis, especially with those games in hand, we're putting ourselves in the driver's seat to basically be the ones to determine their own destiny, which is
Yeah.
when you're fighting for a playoff spot, that is the most important position you want to be in, where you control your own destiny and you're not completely banking on other results to help you get through.
And
And I
it's
think
going to help.
that's
Yeah, and exactly. And it's going to help, like, you know, if they, and that's why I say tomorrow night's so big because then, like, I can look at it and go, all right, I think the maximum, like, you can't lose all 3 games in that 3 game stretch. You have to, at
no.
the very least, win one.
That's what we
To,
said last week.
but it's crazy how it
I know we
changes,
said
right?
last week, and we did, and we got more
I
than
know.
that.
I know. It's unbelievable,
We
right? Like to
under
think
we
they could be on a
undershoot
4
our
game
own
win
team.
streak is going to be unbelievable, right? Um, and it begs the question again, like they're doing this without Backlund in the lineup.
Just tell you something.
It should.
I hate to say someone brought it up in our one of the Flames
I'm
fans
I'm
that was
sorry,
on with
Backlund
us.
should be on the 4th line coming up.
One of the Flames fans that was with us during that live watch along on Thursday even
Mhm.
mentioned like, oh, they want Backlund back in the lineup, and I remember you saying like he doesn't contribute much of anything right now. So him being out
Yeah,
in kind of a weird way has kind of forced the rest of the team
to step
whether
up
to step up, and I mean freaking Matt Coronado in particular,
doing it.
who
I
had who got Player of
love
the Week this week for the Flames.
yeah, and I love that line right now of Huberdeau, Frost, and Coronado. They are going to roll with that. I think it's a
Just roll with it
great
the rest of
line.
the year. Don't touch it.
Uh,
You can move. You could touch the rest of the 3 lines.
yep.
That one line you do not touch
And
moving
I
forward.
actually like Zari up there playing with Kadri. I think that's pretty inspiring, and I like it. Pospisil, I don't mind throwing him up there either. And then having Sharon Govich there on that 3rd line with Farabee, and I imagine Blake Coleman, like I actually don't hate that either. Which is
Yeah.
now like when Backlund comes back, like I think the like you have to force someone to go down to play on that 4th line, right? Like,
Mhm.
because what we know, like, I imagine Kevin Rooney's staying on that 4th line. As much as we hate it, he's probably staying there.
Didn't do
But
anything. Let's go.
I know, and so they want to partner Backlund up again with Blake Coleman, which I assume I don't know what the word is like with him coming back. Actually, I do have the lineups from today. I can take a quick look at from Derek Willis. They do have Backlund back with Coleman and Farabee. They moved Sharon Govich up, but they put it in stars because Pospisil is not skating due to
Right.
maintenance. So they had to put Sharon Govich up there with Kadri and Zari, Huberto with Frost and Coronado, so they kept
Yep.
that together.
Yep.
Klapka's staying up. So it looks like the odd man out might be Igor Sharangovich.
And you know what? It's not the thing about it is that he just hasn't really performed. And so
I don't
him
care if he
coming
has
out
to
of the
sit out the
lineup,
rest of the year. Yeah,
right? If he doesn't perform, like, is it really a loss to not have him in the lineup? I say no,
I don't think
because
so either.
the problem is
Yep.
that the money you're paying him,
Well,
and then like
exactly.
that's always the issue with these things is that like you're paying thus and so $5-6 million a year,
Mhm.
and the guy's not even coming close to producing, and that's like a huge problem in itself. So I agree with you that I think Sharon Govich is the odd man out there because even in the game against Jersey that I watched, Sharon Govich didn't do much of anything. Coleman was way more productive. That line that Sharon Govich was on was only 2/3 productive, and Sharon Govich was the odd man out. So, and then against the Islanders, same thing. Like they're just
Well,
he's not getting anything.
he isn't, and I'm okay if he sits out for a good
And I
period of time.
like that Klapka's come up in the last couple of games
I actually
and
don't
brought
mind
a
him
brought
on
a
that
really
fourth
good
line.
physical. He's been very physical in the
Yeah.
last couple of games,
I
and I
don't
like.
mind him on the fourth line. I
I
kinda
don't
like the
either.
presence of it.
I
I'm
do.
okay with it. So real quick before we move on to the Islanders game on Saturday, Derek Willis, he made a tweet on the 22nd. Okay, this was after we'll get into the game here, the Islanders and Flames here. Flames ended up winning 4-3 in overtime. I did not know this, but maybe this is a calling going into the next season. Okay, this is a
Mhm.
crazy fact. Okay,
Are you gonna bring it up, or are you just reading it?
I will read it. Okay, this is
Okay.
from Derek Willis. You can go visit his Twitter and you can go down just a couple of posts and you can see it.
You need to tweet Derek Willis at one point and ask him who his favorite is to win the Masters.
Oh God,
You need to ask him.
it's coming up. It's coming up very soon.
Mhm.
Here's the fact. Ready for this?
Yep.
This was before Saturday's game
Okay.
against the Islanders.
Yep.
The Flames have won 30 straight games when scoring 4 or more goals. It is the longest streak in the NHL. They are now at 31.
They
What the
were.
fuck does that tell you, man?
That tells me
Seriously.
that if this team can score at a consistent rate, they end up being a very, very good team.
They're in the fucking
In
playoffs this year.
playoffs,
No
exactly.
question about it. They're
Yeah.
in. And
They would be
that
top
is
3 in the Pacific if they were
that's the
playing like
thing.
that.
That's why I think going into the offseason, Craig Conroy and them have to take a very careful look at themselves and go, who was not contributing this year to
Yeah,
scoring?
who's not stepping up?
Defense for me gets a pass, and maybe the Rasmus Anderson is kind of bookmark, and we look at that.
Mhm.
But you got to look at this and go, we got to cut some dead weight here because we got to go out and spend money. I don't even care if they have
First
to eat money here for the next 5 years if they want to
fir
cut Sharon Govich. I don't even care.
first move is cutting Kevin Rooney. I'm just gonna be straight with you.
Oh
No,
yeah,
the
he'll go.
first move is that, and he's not making anything, but that's the first move.
Which is why, like, I'm all in on. And it's funny because Darren Dreger mentioned this on Thursday, or excuse me, Friday after the Flames win in New Jersey, where they're going to be very active in terms of offer sheeting people this offseason because they have the capital of draft picks in order to acquire some players, and they're seeing the
Matthew
success,
Nyes.
right?
Matthew Nyes.
And they're seeing the success from
Yep.
the Blues with Holloway and Broberg.
And with the salary cap going up, and we were talking about this, like now that it's going up as much as it is, now teams are going to feel a lot more comfortable throwing out
Yeah,
money to RFAs because they're going to be like, well, we can do it.
yeah.
And then that puts other teams in a difficult spot. And that's the way that's a great thing. So I think if you're the Flames, I mean, shoot, you have to be super active because this
You do.
team has given you a reason to be super active.
So it's you just have to really take a look in the mirror and say, like, I truly believe that they are very close to being a good playoff team,
Very close.
right? And you said it, they just need to
Closer than
score.
any of us would think they are.
And the big and exactly, and the priority for next season is, Zane Parek's going to come up. I think they need to be active come free agency. Really,
I
start
agree.
using the money, man. Like, might as well, right? Like,
Minus, yep.
you can go out and really be aggressive against these offer sheets, right? You can do that. We mentioned the name Nikolai Ehlers coming up. Like, I'd throw money at him. Like, you have to find ways to keep moving forward, right? And the biggest thing for this team this offseason, the one need they really need to fulfill is they need guys to score, right? And they need to cut dead weight here from this offense. And it starts with Kevin Rooney. I think it may keep going. I think I know it's stupid to say,
He's a
but
fourth liner, but still, it starts with him.
it might end up starting with Backlund too.
Yeah.
I don't know, right? Like, I can see him being on this team next year, but at some point, like, it's gonna fade with him. it's gonna like there's a clock for Sharangovich where I don't care if we have to eat money for him because the cap going up. We can get rid of that, no
Sure,
problem, right?
sure.
And strictly have our focus now on guys who are ready to show face. I don't think that'll happen with Sharangovich because maybe he just had a down year, but the clock's ticking for him
Well,
at
you
this
got.
point.
I think you can chalk it up at least right now to it like, oh, it's just a tough second year for Sharon Govich.
Sure.
But you got to give him you can't give him a long leash next year.
No, the
I think
leash
you
is not
have to
long.
have him. You have to hope that he could have a production like what we've seen from Coronado this year, right? We
Yeah.
challenged Coronado to be productive this year, and he has stepped up. And
Yep.
that's what I think I would do the same path with Sharon Govich. Like, hey, like you really, really have to step up your scoring wise because we need it.
Yeah. I
So
think and I think like the one thing that I find that is missing is and before we'll get into the Islanders game, I
we
promise.
will. Yeah,
Um,
we're almost 30 minutes in. We haven't gotten to the Islander game yet.
I strongly feel they need to go after Ehlers because
We're not.
you switch that and I put Pospisil easily on that fourth line,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a big difference because he's bringing that presence, but with speed on that fourth line. So
Yeah.
anyway,
I would
like
even. I mean, I know people have like different opinions of him. I get it, but like, I would even go after Mitch Marner. See if there's a fit there. I'm being
I
serious,
strong I
and
would
I'm
too.
being serious too. Like I'm
Mhm.
saying, like it really can't hurt to at least try. That's
There
my attitude towards
there
it.
was
Try
word
and go
from
for it.
yeah, exactly. There was word from Drager even that if Rantanen became available at free agency, they were going to go after him. I
So
don't
what's
hate
to say
it.
that they won't do that with Marner? I think it's the same thing.
That's
I think
exactly what I
it's
was going
I
to
think
say.
it's I think Marner and Rantanen are similar in that they have the same type of perception that they are only as good as the superstar player that they play with. Now, Rantanen has not done great
Mhm.
so far in his short time. I say short time in Dallas. So we'll have to see about that. But like, I mean, in the time that he was in Carolina, he was okay. He wasn't anything spectacular.
Sure.
So you have that question. And we will never know about Mitch Marner until
Mhm.
he's on a different team. And someone's going to have to pay him because there's no way in my mind that the Leafs can keep Matthew Nyes, John Tavares, and Mitch Marner all in the same free agency pair. I just can't
Yeah,
see
I
it.
can't see it. I
I
can't see it.
can't. So we'll, but if he is available, this is the way I look at it. Throw a contract offer to Marner, throw a contract offer to Ehlers, and just see how it goes.
See what sticks, right?
Because somebody might say yes.
And down the stretch here, there is priority for obviously goal. Like you read that stat that I had from Willis, and it's like that changes everything, right?
This
You
team
have
scores
10, 12 games where you score 4 more goals, and this team's easily up there with the LAs and the Oilers of
100%.
the world.
100%.
They're not far off, which is crazy
No,
to think.
I
All
agree.
right, let's do it. Let's dive in. So Saturday, um, in Long Island, clearly this team was tired as all hell. They were so tired. I don't know if you saw the highlights or anything like it, but they looked exhausted. And I
They were
watched the
exhausted.
entire third period, and they looked like they needed a beer, which is
Yeah.
exactly what Huberto said after the game: is that he needed a beer because this team was
Yeah.
dog tired. The funniest part about all this for me this game on Saturday, was Coronado scoring two, right? Bad ones to give up as well from Vladar, who I thought was for the most part fairly good. He was great in
Well,
the
that
third
was fine.
period. He
Well,
was
that was
fine.
fine.
He was fine. He was good in the third period. But the funniest part was in the third. Kyle McLean goes in and scores with just under 3 minutes to go. And that was like that just ripped my heart out. And I'm like, well, there it is.
Yeah.
Like that's you just easily gave up a point. You could go into overtime at least and see what happens. And then it's like, all right, the funniest thing was though, is that I switched the channel. Okay. And I'm like, I'm so mad. Like, why? I
Okay.
knew this was going to happen. Why am I doing this? Right. And so I have it on a different channel. Right. I think it was
Yeah.
basketball or something like the March Madness thing. And I'm
Mhm.
sitting there and I'm like, "Oh, just watch the end of the game. Right. I'm not kidding you. About a second to 2 seconds after I turned it on, that's when the tip from Anderson to Huberto and it goes into the net. So I saw it live and I went, "Oh shit!" Like they actually scored. So Huberto finds a way to tie it. Literally, what is that? Like 17:09 to 17:38, 30 seconds
Like
after.
29 seconds
Yeah,
exactly. Not even 30 seconds.
yeah, they find a way to tie it. And even in overtime, they looked so tired and nobody was shooting and there was a lot of
it
moving around. And I'm like,
was
fucking somebody
it was
just
the
step
word. It
up.
was one of the saddest overtimes to watch because you have two teams who are like not
Who can't score?
who aren't fast, who can't score that much, and they're just like everyone's just sluggish as hell.
Somebody do something, right? And
Right.
so finally somebody decides to shoot, and it was Nazem Kadri, and he just ripped it as the Flames find a way to win 4-3 in Long Island. It completes the New York Metropolitan sweep. And going into Tuesday, the Flames still find themselves in a playoff race. Takeaways from Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got tired watching the highlights of this game. I
Me
think
too.
it's just, they definitely looked lethargic, and I think that if they had lost without tying the game, I think you could look at it and say, look, they were tired. It's already been a solid road trip up until that point. But I give the Flames again coming from behind in the third period, tying it up, forcing overtime, and finishing the job. I
Yeah.
think that's the most important thing is that they finished the job and got the win in a game that I think could have gone either way for them, and they got that huge point. But you could see the elation off the bench after Kadri wins that game of how pumped up that team is, that they are coming together as a cohesive unit and finding different guys every night to come through. And the guys right now that are stepping up are Nazem Kadri, which granted, one of them was an empty net goal, but I don't care. Still counts all the same.
Yes.
Jonathan Huberdeau, again, he got the game winner against the Devils. He gets the tying goal in this one against the Islanders. And then you have Matthew freaking Scorinato. 3 goals in
Again.
his last 2 games. 4 goals in 4 games this past week. Nothing short of tremendous from him. It's just awesome to see. It's awesome to see that different guys are stepping up to make plays to ultimately lead to victories.
Mhm.
And so now I hope that they go home on Tuesday night and the fans are really backing them because guess what? They've won 3 in a row and they're right in the thick of everything. This season is far from over.
I agree. I couldn't agree
Gutsy
more,
win
man.
by the Flames.
Very,
Absolutely
very
gutsy
gutsy.
win. And I feel I know like it's just funny how like Vladar, he had 2 strong games. I know he didn't get a lot of shots against the Rangers when they played him. I know.
Mhm.
Like he still did what he needed to do. Didn't give up another goal after giving up the first one like a minute 9 into the game on Panarin's shot. But he had a strong week. He really did. And I think that was great, especially for your backup goaltender to get you 2 of those 3 wins on the road, to get this winning streak going. So that was really, really important. This was one of the better weeks that the Flames have had in a while, for sure.
I totally agree. There you go. Alrighty, let's take a little bit of a break. Finally, after all that, and yeah, we'll get into a break, and then we'll come back. Got a little bit of signing news, and then we'll take a look at the standings again and check out obviously what's happening tomorrow night as well. So we'll be back, and we'll get to more right after the break here. As basketball fans, are you ready to win real money? Check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 dunks on its rivals, including prize picks. Just select 2 or more players and choose will have more or less of a stat like points, rebounds, 3-pointers, and more. Pick 6 is available for most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6 and cash in your basketball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code THPN. That is code THPN for new customers to play $5 to get $50 in Pick 6 credits as you get better payouts, bigger wins, only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.com/ice.
You look really annoyed listening to that.
Yeah, because you have to get through it, you know?
You do, I know, but it's
You
the
have to get
easiest
through
way
it.
to do it. It
Oh,
is.
of course.
All right. Yeah, let's take a quick look here at the standings here. We'll take a look at
Give
the
me the
West, and then
standings.
we'll take a look at the West. And I feel like we're gonna be doing this every single show now because it is
Well,
clinching season.
it's clinching season, of course. We gotta get through it.
It is. Let's take a look here, though. NHL standings. Let's take a look. So, in the West, we'll start there, obviously. And yeah, after St. Louis's win yesterday, 4-1 over Nashville, they now gain a 4-point lead on the Calgary Flames. Actually, 4 points back of the Minnesota Wild as well. Flames, though, sit 4 back of St. Louis going into Tuesday night. You can see it. St. Louis is 8-1-1 in their last 10 games. They are winners of 6 in a row. Certainly on a tear right now, as Utah and Vancouver slowly kind of finding their way into it a little bit, but it might be too little too late in their department. The only good news again for Calgary is the fact that they have games in hand. So other than that, I mean, Oilers are 6-3 in their last 10 as well. A little too far ahead, I think, too, as well, being 10 games in front. It's still too far for the Flames to catch them. So obviously, you're still looking at that.
Are we gonna get into a world where it's possible that the Oilers will play the Kings again, but this time the Kings have the home ice advantage?
It might, because I think, well, hey, like the Oilers are gonna be out the whole week without their 2 top stars, right? And that might
Yeah.
mean a lot. And who knows down the stretch, because they may not be 100% healthy going into the playoffs. So you got to see, like they would rather make sure they're good to go, and they're not getting great goaltending, maybe outside of an okay performance on Saturday against Seattle. But
Did you see the stat that the Kings set last night in their 7-2 thrashing of Boston? They set a new franchise record for longest home point streak, 14 games after last night.
that's insane.
So I'm just being honest. If you're Edmonton, you may really need to get that home ice advantage against the Kings, because who knows, Kyle, maybe this is the year they finally can get past Edmonton.
There might be a lot of questions if the Oilers can't find a way to get by the Kings in the first round. That's going to be an interesting conversation.
Huge questions.
That would be massive if they don't find a way to get through
Big
LA.
time. Big time.
Yeah. So anyway, it's going to come down to, I've said it like the last week or so, because of these games in hand, but you have to maintain pace a little bit. You just have to stay 2 points behind St. Louis to give yourself the best opportunity, and they'll have a chance to do that again Tuesday night. Need a little bit of help from Montreal, obviously, but what are your thoughts when you look at the West here?
I just love how there's only one team in that wild card race that has a positive goal differential, and everyone else has like -1, or the Flames with the best one, -21. Just a lot of, yeah, I mean, these teams definitely struggling to score, but again, finding ways to win, which is so important at this time of the year. I think the top 3 in the West, in the Pacific, have pretty much been locked up, in my opinion. I think the big question mark is going to be, who's 2 and who's 3 in the West, in that division.
Pacific,
So we'll see. And then as far as you look out at the Central Division, again, we're most likely going to get Dallas, Colorado first round. Who gets the home ice advantage? It's going to be interesting. And I'm telling you right now, the Avalanche are heating up at the best time that you could, with, for them, 11 games to go in the season, because they could be, I don't even want to say dark horse. They could just be like a team that, like, obviously is not, the number 1 seed or even number 2 seed in the West, but they're right there. Also, there is that report that Landeskog may
might be ready to go,
finally be back, which would be such a rewarding thing for him, to finally get back into the lineup when he's been out for so long.
Yes.
And that's going to be huge. So, it's, I would say, in the top 6 in the West, it's kind of a lot of what you'd expect, but definitely that wild card race is going to be pretty much down to the last game or 2, I think.
You got it.
Of the year.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's certainly coming down to it. And I think for Dallas, their favor is just the fact that they have games in hand, right? So it seems like the road could go through Dallas there, just on that, if we're looking at it from the 2 seed perspective.
Yeah.
In that series there, which again is going to be absolute fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at the East real quick. Ottawa picked up a big win, like you said there, on Saturday, as they beat the Devils to kind of increase their chances here in the wild card race. Now 5 points clear of the New York Rangers, so they're sitting pretty good. Montreal being 1 point up now on the Rangers. The Islanders didn't get help on Saturday thanks to the Calgary Flames. They did get 1
They
point,
get
though,
1 point. Yep.
to stay in the conversation a little bit
Sure.
as teams are starting to fade there as
Rain,
well.
Islanders and Blue Jackets face off tonight against one another, and so that'll be something to keep in mind,
Yep.
at least in the wild card race a little bit. And
For
also,
the
what's really bad for the Rangers is that not only are they points behind both Montreal and Ottawa, they have those two teams have 2 games in hand on them too.
Yeah, that's
So it
right.
just kind of puts them in a very difficult spot moving forward.
For sure. Yeah, I think, and you start to see teams fading too, right? The Bruins, the Red Wings, and the Blue Jackets, all of them fading. 2 wins in each of them, respectively, in their last 10 games. So they're pretty much out of the hunt. It looks. I just kind of look at it from that standpoint, is that you
I
don't
agree.
see a lot of faith coming in that very soon. Looking at division leaders, though, still tight there in the Atlantic. You got Florida there at 89. You got the Leafs at 87. The Lightning at 85.
I think we're going to get those 3 teams as the top 3, but in terms of what order they're in, it's still not
It's hard to
even close
say.
to being. It's very hard to say. Yeah,
It is very, very hard to say.
yeah.
Again, Capitals are the only team who've clinched a playoff spot so far.
Game.
They're currently at 102 points, 2 points better than the Winnipeg Jets, if we're looking at it from a presidential trophy standpoint. So they're going to be up there. It looks like the Capitals are going to be securing their spot very soon, though, as the number 1 seed in the Metro, and possibly very soon in the Eastern Conference. So they're clearly the team to beat there. Carolina, 10 points clear of New Jersey. It looks as though Carolina is going to be sitting there in that number 2 spot. Still have to be decided, though, there. I guess we'll have to see what New Jersey does.
I don't really see it I don't really
Different.
see that changing
Same.
in
Me
terms
too.
of the 2 and 3. I think it's just a matter of, can the Devils, get back to their winning ways and try to secure that last spot? Because
Yeah.
again, the Rangers are right there. They have the
Absolutely.
same. The Rangers and Devils have the same amount of games, yes, but again, it's a 6-point lead, which you'd rather have an 8-point lead than a 6-point lead. And again, I think for the Devils, it's the same thing as it's always been. It's just you got to start winning games, and it starts tonight against Vancouver. Which, even though you're not worried too much from the Flames' perspective about Vancouver, you still want to see them drop points because you
This
just want to have
season,
it.
yeah.
You just want to start worrying about less and less teams as you get down the stretch here.
I just want
believe.
to point out, though, just looking at this, right? You're 6 points clear, right? And you both have 11 games left, right? Just to give you perspective, right? You do have Chicago Wednesday, obviously Vancouver tonight. And then I'd like to tell you this. You got the Jets coming up Friday. You got the
back-to-back.
Wild. You get the Wild back-to-back.
Mm-hmm.
And the back-to-back nights. Yeah, Friday and Saturday.
Back-to-back nights. Winnipeg Friday, and then Minnesota
down
Saturday.
in Minnesota. You then host Minnesota on Monday. And then
Stupid.
probably the biggest game of the year will be on Saturday, April 5th for you guys when you host the Rangers.
That will be the game, in my opinion, that will determine, in my opinion, where the season's going to end for the Devils, and certainly for the Rangers as well. Unless the Devils go on a hot streak up until that point, and the Rangers really, really fall off the table, which I think the Rangers were incredibly lucky to win on Saturday afternoon. They put up, and I'm not making this up, Kyle, they put up 12 shots. So you thought it was bad against the Flames. Hey, at least the Flames won the game. The Rangers put 12 shots on Lincoln, and they won convincingly.
Of course.
Like, it just, so that's the thing with the Rangers right now, is that, like, it's that inconsistency, and they're not producing a lot. But again, it's far from over. Nothing has been determined other than the Capitals. It's going to be a dogfight to the end. And I think we're in for a fun race down the stretch here on both sides. I think both in the West and in the East.
What doesn't help, maybe if you're a Devils fan either, is the fact that the Rangers right now are on their Western swing, where they've got LA, the Ducks, and the Sharks. So if for some reason they survive LA, well, then you got the Ducks and the Sharks coming up. And that's a little horrifying, because then you get Minnesota, right, who've been up and down lately, right? So you might have a good chance at that. But I really think that could get interesting if for some reason they find a way to, like, sneakily. Because let's put it this way, man, if they even find a way to get to within 4 points of striking distance, that turns out to be a really huge game.
Of course it does, and that's what I'm
right?
saying. Like the Devils, for the best case scenario for them is that they can string together a couple of wins here and there. Rangers maybe have a struggling Western road trip, and then
Yeah.
maybe by the time you get to that game, you're 8-9 points clear. That game, at least from the Rangers' perspective, you're not feeling as like, oh, we could definitely like get back into it, because again,
Yeah.
by the time we get to that game, everybody's going to be less than 10 games left to go in the year. I mean, so like
You want to, and that's the thing. Like, you want to make sure that you're separating yourself still as much
sure.
as
And it
possible.
should be
Yeah.
mentioned as well, the Devils also have one more game against the Islanders as well. So those are two massive games, because the Islanders are there, whether we like to admit it or not. The Islanders have come back to life a little bit.
Yes.
But again, we'll see how they go, moving forward. But I think when you're in a position like the Devils are in, you just have to string together wins.
Of
You at
course.
every point so very much matters,
Mhm.
and you have to get it done. Especially in games when the teams you're chasing are not playing, because you want to put that pressure on them to go out then and then try to go win that game. So
You
like
got it.
that's how we look at it. So we'll see how things go tonight. So again,
Cool.
it's gonna be a fight to the very end
It
for
will.
sure.
The only other thing I really have to bring up, you tagged me in it today, was from Pat Steinberg, where the Flames did make a signing today, believe it or not. They signed goaltender Owen Say out of Notre Dame to a 1-year, 2-way contract here, $872,000 AAV. It does kick in next year. The man is 6'2", 175 pounds. He went 10-15 with a .920 save percentage last year at Notre Dame. And I mentioned it too, like, very strange to be under 500 in your goaltending record, but still have a very high save percentage.
That's what Brandon Bean is bad on Twitter said right on the bottom there. He said, "How do you put up that save percentage with that record? LOL. The heck goes
Yeah,
on in the NCAA? It's a lot of high scoring games in college hockey.
it is.
That's kind of the unfortunate thing about it."
Anything else for today? I think that's pretty much it. I don't have any
No, I
more
mean,
news.
only NHL news is that it's possible Thatcher Demko will make his first start for the Canucks since December 8th, I believe. Elliot Friedman tweeted that out really late last night. Because Kevin Lankinen apparently is, I think, sick or whatever the case may be. Also, the Canucks may be without Elias Pettersson, someone else for a bit of time, which is not.
Gabe, so just other news too. Gabe Lardy's week to week, by the way, for the Jets. Did you see how the refs broke up that goalie fight last
I
night?
did see. Yeah, it was very lame.
I hate the refs in that
They
situation.
didn't. They didn't let Jeremy Swayman drop the gloves, which was unfortunate because I think people really wanted to see that.
No, can't have fun in this league.
And the NCAA tournament, men's hockey is kicking off later on this week.
Nice.
There's a Toledo region I found out this year, so I don't even know how to
Wow.
comprehend that. But
Yikes.
the Frozen Four is going to be in Minnesota
Nice.
this year. So
Beautiful. Which is
I
why
don't-
the Wild are going to go on a bit of a road trip to end the year, because they need to take care of that first.
I wonder if that's a good thing or a bad thing to go on a road trip like that at the end of the year. I guess
Well,
it'll
they don't.
depend
Well,
on
the
where they
problem
are
is
by that time.
they don't get much of a say, right? Unfortunately.
No, of course not. Of course not. It's like
Cool.
because the Devils go off on a road trip after tonight. They go to, like you said, Chicago, Winnipeg, Minnesota, because later on this week, the Prudential Center hosts the Sweet 16 of the East region in the NCAA men's basketball tournament.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
again, don't have a say. That's just how it goes. So
I
you
think
should be
that'll wrap
lucky if
up.
you're in Canada, you don't have to deal with this.
Yeah, we got U Sports, university sports.
What?
So, yeah, it sucks. There was an 8 seed that won the Canadian University Championships for the men's side. University of Ottawa ended up winning
Oh,
as
good
an
for
8
them.
seed. So good for them.
There's a lot
There
of
you go.
a lot of good stuff.
Alrighty, that'll wrap it up, and we'll be back to you guys on Thursday for after we'll talk about Tuesday night's game. Obviously, coming up, we'll go through that and see whatever BS comes up between now and then, as
Whatever nonsense.
they're pulling us back in again, Neil. So we'll see y'all again.
Keep pulling me back in.
Exactly. We'll see y'all on Thursday, and have a good rest of the week, everybody.